Everyone, call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock on Monday, February 10th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have 11 items on our agenda this evening. I will now ask the City Clerk to read agenda item number 1.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, January 27th, 2020.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. The minutes are approved and placed on file. Got to get used to that. I'm still not used to that. Item 2.
Communication from the mayor regarding a transfer request from undesignated fund to OPEB trust and undesignated stabilization in the amount of $1,331,902 each pursuant to the financial policies of the city.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to the Finance Committee.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to Finance. Number 3.
Communication from the mayor regarding mid-year transfer requests totaling $838,902 from various departments for fiscal year 20, which moves funds from and to accounts as noted.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to the Finance Committee.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved unanimously to go to Finance. Item 4.
Communication from the mayor regarding proposed salary ordinance amendment.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to Finance Committee.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved to go to Finance, unanimous. Number 5.
Communication from the mayor regarding reappointments to the Community Development Authority Board of Stephanie Ferrecchia and David Morticelli for 3-year terms from date of confirmation, Paul Sliney for a 2-year term to expire from date of confirmation, and Renee Perdicato for a 1-year term to expire from date of confirmation.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to refer to Personnel.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the Personnel Committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? There are none. It is unanimous to refer to Personnel. Item 6.
Communication from City Clerk Stephen Kerrigan regarding the presidential primary election call. The City Clerk being is hereby authorized and directed to warn and notify the voters of each of the 7 wards and 14 precincts of the City of Marlborough duly qualified to vote in primaries to assemble in their respective polling places as designated by the City Council as follows. Ward 1, Precincts 1 and 2, the Francis J. Kane School, 520 Farm Road. Ward 2, Precincts 1 and 2, the Francis J. Kane School, 520 Farm Road. Ward 3, Precinct 1, the Senior Center at 40 New Street. Ward 3, Precinct 2, the Raymond J. Richer School at 80 Foley Road. Ward 4, Precincts 1 and 2, at the Senior Center, 40 New Street. The new polling location for Ward 5, Precincts 1 and 2, the Masonic Lodge at 8 Newton Street. Ward 6, Precincts 1 and 2, the First Charles W. Whitcomb School, 25 Union Street. Ward 7, Precincts 1 and 2, the Hildreth School, 85 Solomon Street. On Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020, then and there, for the purpose of casting their votes in the presidential primary for candidates of political parties for the following offices. Presidential preference for this Commonwealth. State Committee Man for the Middlesex and Worcester Senate District. State Committee Woman for the Middlesex and Worcester Senate District. Ward Committees for the City of Marlborough. It is further ordered that the polling places legally designated by the City Council be open at 7 o'clock in the forenoon and closed at 8 o'clock in the evening. The City Clerk be and is hereby authorized to cause this notice to be given by publication of this order in a local newspaper and by posting a copy of the same in a conspicuous place in the office of the City Clerk.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All the, All those in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous to place on file. Item 7.
Communication from City Clerk Stephen Kerrigan regarding early voting for the presidential primary. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, at the end of 2019, the legislature passed a bill that calls for 1 week of early voting for the presidential primary, which is scheduled for March 3rd, 2020. Under the law, cities and towns will have early voting from Monday, February 24th, 2020 to Friday, February 28th, 2020. Here in Marlborough, early voting will take place at City Hall, 140 Main Street, and the hours for early voting are as follows. Monday, February 24th from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday, February 25th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday, February 26th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday, February 27th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Friday, February 28th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've seen a great interest in early voting here in Marlborough, and we encourage the residents of Marlborough to come out and exercise their right to vote. Sincerely, Stephen Kerrigan, City Clerk, and Wilson Chu, Assistant City Clerk.
Councilor Tenera.
Well, now, Mr. President, now I really do want to say something.
Well, okay.
I yield
Go
to
ahead.
council. I was going to accept and place on file, but go ahead.
Thank you.
Councilor Oro.
And I was just going to note, I'm sure our city clerk will be putting this on social media and every other location possible on the web. Just one note, if I may. This early voting is different from the previous ones we've had, where in this case, there's no Saturday voting. So I just wanted to note, if it's okay, Mr. President, that City Hall will allow you to vote up till 7 o'clock on that Monday. So for people that may be in the regular work day, that's an option that they will have. I just wanted to note that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Kerrigan.
You are correct, Councilor, that yes, the law that the legislature passed only allowed for 1 week, Monday through Friday. Absentee ballots are available and can be applied for, and we can get absentee ballots out to everyone. But then in October, we will have 2 weeks of early voting, again, for the November presidential election, state and presidential election, which will include, at a minimum, a Saturday, and we're potentially investigating Sunday as well.
Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. I'm glad you brought that up.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Accept and place on file.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept and place on file. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Is approved to place on file. Item 8.
Petition for Massachusetts Electric to install a new pole and anchor, number 79-84, on Berlin Road, which will enable National Grid to remove the pole to tree guy wire.
Councilor Landry.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Please refer to Public Service Committee and set the date for a public hearing.
Motion made and seconded to refer to Public Services, and we'll set a public hearing date for February 24th. So motion's been made and seconded to refer to Public Services with a public hearing on February 24th. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous to refer to Public Service and set the public hearing for the 24th of February. Item 9.
Communication from Chris White regarding the yearly operational plan and vegetation management plan, and the documents are available for viewing in the City Clerk's office.
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept and place on file. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Oram.
Thank you, Mr. President. On this yearly operation plan, I would just ask, as we progress in the future years of vegetation management, that we continue to look at ways to use less pesticides. And I'm sure the city is looking towards that. Where I work, I had a Board of Health member who actually set up a guide, and we don't allow anything but physical removal. It's not easy. It requires more labor. But I'm hoping as we move along to protect our natural resources, we'll continue to strive to use less herbicides and pesticides. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Oram. Any other discussion on the motion? On the motion to accept and place on file, all those in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous to accept and place on file. Item 10.
Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. President. Accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the 5 sets of minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous to accept and place on file. Item 11.
Claims.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Please refer to legal.
Motion made and seconded to refer the claims to the legal department. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous to refer to the legal department. Reports of committees. Who wants to go first? Councilor Landers.
Jump right up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Service Committee meeting met on Monday, February 3rd. We took up 2 items. The first one, order number 191007863, petition from Massachusetts Electric to install new underground equipment to feed the street lights 52 through 57, Exning Street light number 24 on Donald Lynch Boulevard. And this, Mr. President, was a request of the city. They're doing quite a bit of work out on Donald Lynch Boulevard, and the whole purpose, under the supervision of our city engineer, Tom DePercio, is, you know, get the conduits done, which they did in the fall, so when we come in the spring, they can start running their new wires, so that's a real plus. So on a motion by Councilor Irish, second by the chair, to approve this petition was 3-1. So the recommendation of the Public Service Committee is to approve the petition as requested. Next item, order number 191007877, petition from Massachusetts Electric to install a new pole and an anchor number 3084 on Bigelow Street, which will enable National Grid to remove the pole of the tree guide wire. And that's something we've been working on with National Grid, to remove these guide wires. They're not a good setup. Wire comes into someone's yard, and then of course nowadays you have so many transformers on the top of these poles, which are quite heavy. So on the recommendation of the Public Service Committee, we approve this petition 3-0. And that's the end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other committee reports? Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee met on February 3rd. We had three items on the agenda that evening. I'd like to also mention that it was a full house and all the councils were present for the 3 items. First item was order number 19-100-7838, the new library update. It was communication from the mayor dated October 24th, 2019, requesting that the representatives of the Marlborough Public Library Building Committee provide an update with the City Council. Representatives of the Building Committee provided a thorough update, including a slide presentation. Motion made by Councilor Tenera, seconded by the chair, to accept and place on file. It carried 5-0. Second item that evening was order number 20-100-7916, transfer of $3,029,000 for the Hudson Street landfill redevelopment. The Finance Committee reviewed the mayor's letter dated January 23rd, 2020, requesting the transfer of $3,029,000 from the undesignated fund account for the design and construction of the DEP corrective actions to prepare a portion of the Hudson Street landfill for active reuse. Motion made by Councilor Tenera, seconded by Councilor Dumas, to approve. It carried 3-2. Council Oram and Council Perlman was opposed. Also like to mention that we have gotten information from the city engineer, DePercio, as well as the Conservation Commissioner, Ryder, on any updates as well that came up during that meeting. The last item is order number 20-100-7917, transfer of $400,000 from open space stabilization account for the acquisition of 45-47 and 55 Bolton Street, Assessors Map 57-104 and Map 70-296. The Finance Committee reviewed the mayor's letter dated January 23rd, 2020, requesting approval of the order to purchase 2 parcels on Bolton Street, including a transfer of $400,000 from the open space stabilization account to fund the purchase of these parcels within a short distance to the existing deck building. The District of Education Center currently does not have sufficient parking to meet present and future demands. The acquisition of these parcels across the street from Bolton Street will also provide additional municipal parking lot. Motion made by Council Orem, seconded by Council Perlman. It carried 4-0 with Councilor Dumas recused. I will also be asking for a suspension this evening to vote on this.
Thank you, Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other reports of committee? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee met on Monday, February 3rd, and we had 5 items on the agenda that we took up. So the first one was order number 20-1007919. It was the reappointment of Diane Smith, the city auditor, for a 3-year term from date of confirmation. We learned that Diane Smith has been as the city auditor for the past 12 years. It was motioned by Councilor Doucette and seconded by the chair to approve, and that vote was 3-0. The next item was order number 20-1007920, the reappointment of Ms. Khan to the Planning Board for a 1-year term to expire the first Monday in February of 2021. She moved to Marlborough about a year ago, and she's excited to be on the Planning Board. That motion was sent by Councilor Doucette and seconded by Councilor Landers to approve, and that vote was from 3-0. The item number 3 was order number 20-1007902, is a reappointment of Patricia Carlson to the Commission on Disabilities for a 2-year term. She's been on the commission since 2012, and so that was motioned by Councilor Doucette and then seconded by Councilor Landers. The approved vote was 3-0. Item number 4 was order number 20-1007903, is a reappointment of 4 zoning board of appeal members. They are Mr. Quintana, Robert Levine for a 3-year term, in addition to Thomas Golden and Ralph Lofton for a 2-year term. They have been on the the zoning board together for a little while now, and actually has a full membership on the zoning board. However, they do need to seek alternates, so if you are interested in the zoning board, please contact the mayor. And the motion was by Councilor Doucette and seconded by the chair to approve, and the vote was 3-0. And the last item on the agenda was order number 20-1007904, the appointment of Paul Gould to the Fort Meadow Commissioner for a 3-year term from date of confirmation, who are replacing the commissioner. So Paul Gould has previously had been on the Fort Meadow Commission since about 2000. Mr. Gould explained their meeting structure, and he really talked about what goes on at the lake at Fort Meadow. It was pretty interesting to hear that they actually have a full committee for the lake. I represent the other side of town, so it was interesting to see what goes on the east side of town. And that was a motion by Councilor Doucette and second by Landers to approve, and the vote was 3-0. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well done. Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Are there any other reports of committee? Any other reports of committee? Seeing none, we have 1 suspension from the Finance Committee to take up.
Order number 20-1007917, transfer of $400,000 from...
I apologize. I didn't ask for suspension of the rules first. Oh. My bad.
Me too.
So the Finance Committee has asked for suspension of the rules to approve the transfer to purchase the 2 parcels on Bolton Street. So, Councilor Irish.
Motion to approve the suspension.
Motion made and seconded to ask for suspension of the rules.
Yes.
Councilor Dumas.
I need to recuse myself from this vote.
Understand,
Thank
Councilor
you.
Dumas will be recorded as recused from the vote. On the suspension, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the suspension? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous to suspend the rules. I apologize, Mr. Kerrigan. You're on.
Thank you. Order number 20-1007917, transfer of $400,000 from the Open Space Stabilization Account for the acquisition of 45 to 47 and 55 Bolton Street, identified as Assessors Map 57-104 and Map 70-296, and also authorization for the mayor to enter into purchase and sale agreement. And the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve 4-0.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. A recommendation of committee is to approve the transfer request in the amount of $400,000 from stabilization open space to open space acquisition to fund the proposed acquisition of 45, 47, and 55 Bolton Street, map 57, parcel 104, and map 70, parcel 296, and to grant authorization to the mayor to enter into a purchase and sales agreement here within this order. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Irish. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the transfer of $400,000 and authorize the mayor to purchase the 2 properties on Bolton Street. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Everybody's good. It is approved unanimously. That'd be a 10-0 with 1 abstention. Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I do have a request for a suspension of the rules tonight. I'd like to have a suspension that will enable us to accept and read the communications that we received from the mayor today on the acquisition of the parcel of land at 59A Bolton Street.
Motion made and seconded to approve this, to ask for, request the suspension of the rules to enter into the record the letter from the mayor on the purchase of land at 59A Bolton Street. Motion on the suspension. Councilor Dumas.
I'll also be recusing myself from this vote.
Understand, we'll have the record reflect Councilor Dumas will be recused from participating in this item. On the suspension, any discussion on the suspension? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous. Mr. Kerrigan, if you could read the mayor's letter.
Dear President Ossing and councilors, I respectfully submit this request for City Council approval of the proposed acquisition of the above, and I'm sorry, this was regarding acquisition of 59A Bolton Street, Marlborough, Mass., Assessors Map 57-105. Approval of the proposed acquisition of the above referenced parcel of land on Bolton Street across from the deck building. The parcel is adjacent to 2 other parcels which the city seeks to acquire, 45 to 47 and 55 Bolton Street, which is currently before this council and has been favorably recommended by the Finance Committee. The above identified parcel is similarly uniquely situated because of the land is within a short walking distance in close proximity to the existing deck building across Bolton Street. This proximity can be utilized to increase off-street parking, as deck currently does not have enough parking to meet present or future demands. Enclosed, please find a letter from Chief Procurement Officer Beverly Sleeper regarding why the proposed purchase constitutes a unique acquisition under procurement law. The attached order fully authorizes the acquisition of the parcel for a total purchase price of $160,000 and allows me to enter into a purchase and sale agreement. To fund the purchase, the proposed order includes a transfer of $160,000 from free cash. With your approval, I anticipate the City of Marlborough being able to acquire the parcel in early 2020, which will allow for improved parking in relation to various city activities. I'm available to discuss this acquisition with you further. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor.
Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to have an unusual request. I'm going to ask for a suspension that we could act on this tonight. You know, we had quite a discussion back at our Finance Committee meeting, and you know, you're listening to a guy that wasn't that crazy about it at first, but the more I worked on it and talked to the president and talked to a few other people, that it's a good purchase for the city. It does so much for that particular part of the city. You know, it takes care of the deck center, the early childhood center. It takes care of any activities that are going on, Mr. President, you know, at the Common, the park there. And I must say that it also takes care of the church that Councilor Doucette mentioned last week. For hundreds of years, or over 100 years anyways, they let us, you know, use that park. And that would be lost without that. So if they can benefit by this, I think it would be a plus. The other reason I'd like to get moving on this, it seems makes sense that, you know, we approved the other 2 parcels, that if the city engineer and either the contractor or the Department of Public Works, they're going to get working on it, it would be best that they know that it's the entire 3 parcels. It would probably be, you know, cheaper, you know, in the long run. And so I think, you know, I think we ought to get moving on it if you see it in your wisdom. And, you know, as I mentioned, the price is right. You know, I'm not a realtor, but I don't think that was a bad price for that. And as I say, for the reasons I mentioned before and the ones that I kind of repeated tonight, I'd like to see us move on this, Mr. President, if you can move along parallel with the other approval tonight. And, you know, maybe we could get this done by early summer, if definitely by September 1st.
So, Council Landers, there already is a suspension, so the floor is yours if you want to make a motion to approve the purchase.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. President, that we would vote to authorize an appropriation from free cash the amount of $160,000 to pay for the purchase of this parcel. Sufficient?
And authorize the mayor to purchase.
Authorize what?
The mayor to purchase the property.
Okay, and authorize the mayor's.
Motion has been made and seconded to authorize the mayor to purchase the property at 59A Bolton Street for $160,000. Money is coming from free cash. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Orm.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I can sense the need to consider it. I think you brought it up, Councilor Landers, at our Finance Committee meeting. The question I would have is related to this property. It's different from the other two. It has a house on it, and it looks like a garage from what I can see on the plan we received from the previous discussion on the other two lots. Have we determined what the cost will be for demolition?
There will be a cost associated with tearing that down.
If I can, just for that piece of information, I mean, we can have the mayor, the DPW come up, or if similar to what we did on State Street, it's about $17,000 to $20,000 to demolish a piece of property. So you can figure
that's reasonable.
That would be additional cost. That's correct.
And then the other question would be, when you look at this plan, if you really wanted to make the parking lot contiguous on the back side, you would look at also 92 Francis Street. I don't know if that was considered. It would make it so you wouldn't have like a half lot and the rest is not contiguous. So I would ask if we can maybe find, I'm not saying we keep buying all the lots in this area, but parking is a necessity in Marlborough. And I was just curious if 92 Francis Street, which abuts it, and actually has a lot line that pretty much would follow the back lot line to the other two lots we already made a decision on. Just a question, not trying to create us buying every lot in town, but was curious if that was considered during the discussion with the mayor or...
I'll just give you my insights from the last Finance Committee. The Finance Committee asked the mayor to go after this particular piece of property because it looked like it was in a condition to sell, I believe. Yeah. And that's, so the city council did not request the mayor to canvass the adjoining neighborhood. I mean, that's something we want to look more into. I guess the mayor could. I would recommend that we at least address this one, and if we want to go further, that's another, ask the mayor and he can see what he can find if that looks appropriate, Councilor.
Well, Mr. President, you did state one good point that is important. This property is in disrepair. So I don't want the people at 92 Francis Street to think that we're taking over their property. It just seemed to make common sense to make it one big, almost rectangular parking lot, but that might be for another day. Maybe they're listening right now and might consider it, but for now, I respect the fact that if this property is in disrepair, obviously this would be the first to go to. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussions? Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I will be supporting this evening at our Finance Committee meeting. I thought it was wonderful that Councilor Landers did bring this up to let the mayor know about this property. It is in not the best of condition, and considering the cost of it, it could really work out with the additional parking there with the First Church and as well as the deck building. So I would definitely be approving this tonight. Thank you. Supporting this tonight, Mr. President.
Any other discussion? Any discussion? So on the motion to approve the $160,000 transfer from free cash to authorize the mayor to purchase the property at 59A Bolton Street, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is unanimous, 10-0, with one Counselor recused. Counselor Tenera.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? It is unanimous. We are adjourned at 8:30. Have a good evening, everyone.